Advice for making friends as an adult and building deep platonic connections with other people. I'm intentional with everything I do. I'm really intentional with the way that I date. I'm intentional. I have intentional conversations. What does that really mean? There's this whole concept of catch-up friendships, which what happened to those friendships where like you're doing life together, where they're getting every single update, where you can just kind of sit on the couch and hang because you're doing life together presently? It kind of sucks when you have to go through months and months of huge updates that you kind of just skim over, and then at the end of the hangout like don't really have anything to talk about because it's not like the current feelings that you're having. Hello everyone, I'm your host HANAKATTT and we are back for another episode of BULGOGI pod. I have a confession to make. I recorded an episode, didn't like it that much because I was just like feeling a little tired, and so I literally just took a nap in my car with the windows down and it was really nice. And now we are back and refreshed and ready to go. I love a 15-minute power nap. You guys should not hear the episode that I just recorded because I don't know what I was saying. I don't function without sleep. I have not been sleeping that well this week. I just been doing too much. I just overextended myself and refused to cancel on plans and refused to just reschedule things because I like to book things a month out, and so rescheduling is just very inconvenient for everyone, and it will just make it so that something never happens, you know what I mean? But I'm back and we are gonna talk about friendships. Now, this was actually a gogi submitted question. I'm gonna keep it anonymous, and so you guys just feel free to just freely share whatever you want with me. You guys can, if you guys listen on Spotify, you guys can always submit topics there. You can DM me on Instagram at bulgogi.podcast, as well as commenting on the YouTube channel. And so, yeah, go ahead and do that. But this gogi said, advice for making friends as an adult and building deep platonic connections with other people. Boy, oh boy, have you come to the right place. Because if there's anybody that likes to make deep connections with people, it is me. I think for a lot of my life, I questioned what the meaning of it was. Why are we all here? Just, what are we doing? For me personally, and maybe I haven't explored this completely to the depth that maybe I want to and will need to as I get older and experience more life. But I truly think that life is about the people. It's about the connections that you build, and it's about the impact that you have on others. It's not anything else. It's very simple, right? And so when it comes to being an adult and making friends, it's hard, right? I think when we're younger, it's so easy to just connect with people on silly things, right? We kind of don't have to get values into the mix, and you don't think about all the qualities that you want in people, because right as we get older, our time becomes more and more limited, and so it forces us to be a little bit pickier. And of course, with life experience, we get a little pickier in general, just on who we want to spend time with. Me personally, I think one of my big goals for this year was to hang out with the people and spend time with the people that I know I love, right? I think a couple years back it was really about networking and building the network and expanding outwards, but this year is really about building depth. And so at least with the friendships that I have already established, what does that look like? It really just means being intentional. I think that being intentional is a phrase that is thrown around quite easily these days. It's just oh yeah, I'm intentional with everything I do. I'm really intentional with the way that I date. I'm intentional. I have intentional conversations. But what does that really mean, right? Let's think about it for a second. For me, being intentional means having the forethought and setting intentions. Oh my god, that is literally so bad. I don't know why premeditated murder is in my head, but it's kind of premeditated, right? When you want to build a friendship. Similar to murder, right? Those two things are very similar. But yeah, I think right when I look at my at my friends. I'll use Diane as an example. It was very intentional. Like, I had met Diane in college, like we interacted a few times, but it was nothing serious. And then it was after college that we ran into each other at a party. And we didn't really talk at the party, but then after the party ended, Diane had messaged just being like, hey, like, oh, we should get lunch sometime. Like, right, super casual. It was nothing that serious in the beginning. Like, it kind of like went the way that like all my interactions went. But with Diane, how I felt was like, this girl has depth. This girl has a lot of the qualities that like I want in a person. And so I want to continue to get to know her more, right? And it's really like noticing those like first initial like gut instincts of like, oh, I like this person. I like the way that they make me feel. And like, I feel like we just connect. And like, if we were to like hang out more and like build this friendship, maybe it could turn out to be something great. And like, that's literally what happened was, right? Like, Diane wasn't afraid to get vulnerable. Like, Diane just like had so much like life in her and like so much enthusiasm, and she's like positive, and she's like all the things that like I wanted in a person. And like, this is literally a love letter to Diane, and Diane's boyfriend knows that he's third wheeling, right? And so it was just like, right, kind of similar to dating, like that similar gut feeling of like, oh, something feels different, like something feels right about this. And so after me and Diane's like first initial lunch, it was kind of like continual hangouts of like, hey, do you want to grab dinner sometime? Like, hey, like, do you want to go to this show with me? Like, hey, just like constantly hitting them up. And eventually like your relationship kind of forms. And I think we get to a point where we try to figure out if like we want to continue getting to know this person. Like, it's easy to get lunch and catch up, right? There's this whole concept of catch up friendships, which, oh, it's wow. It blew my mind. Like, I think we have so many friends that we're like, oh, they're low maintenance. Like, we don't have to see them all the time. Like, I see my best friends like once or twice a year, and, you know, it goes back to being the same. But sometimes those friendships really bother me, because what happened to those friendships where like you're doing life together, where they're getting every single update, where like you're kind of inseparable, and you, if you don't see each other for a week, you're like, I missed you, like it's been so long. Like, those friendships where you can just kind of sit on the couch and hang because you're doing life together presently, right? Like, it kind of sucks when you have to go through months and months of like life huge updates that you kind of just skim over, and then at the end of the hangout like don't really have anything to talk about, because it's not like the current feelings that you're having, it's like everything that's already been processed, right? Like, I think, yes, it's good to process, like, I'm gonna use like a fight example, right? Like, I think it's important when you're fighting with somebody else to like process all your emotions, but like sometimes it's helpful to like be there in real time to kind of witness all the thoughts and feelings that are coming up in the moment. And I think like that's what's missing in catch up friendships is all those current thoughts and feelings, right? Like, as time passes and memories fade, we like lose all the, yes, like small details, but like the important details that like make up a story. And so I don't know, I'm just like, I don't want to do the catch up friendships anymore. Like, okay, I'll still do them because like a lot of my friendships are still catch up friendships, but maybe rather than I don't want to do the catch up friendships anymore, it's I want the real time friendships more so. Like, I want to kind of transition people over. And like, I think a way that I like kind of used to do this with IX, like the girls, is through Instagram. We have like a little Instagram DM like group chat, and like we'll literally just like record 7-8 videos on like our life updates as they happen, and it makes it so that like I just feel a lot more connected to my friends. And so I think in that way it like builds depth, because it allows you to like be there for people and understand like the context in which they're operating, like kind of at all times, if you're able to and you're good about keeping up. And I also think like sometimes I have this like feeling that like I don't want to share for whatever reason. Sometimes it's because I feel like a burden, sometimes it's because like the people I'm opening up to don't feel safe. But I think it's really important to open up to the people that like you can trust, but also understanding that like I don't know, sometimes it's like not all that serious. Like I overshare because yes, it's fun, but also because like it's not that big of a deal. Like I'm like my life is funny. Like my life is interesting and like I kind of just want to share that and like I'm not going to get super upset if like other people hear like whatever like I'm saying to you, like things get repeated and people gossip, but like I'm just making sure that the things that I'm sharing like won't really hurt me if they like get spread. And so it's also just like having like right that like lightness to life, that trust in your friends and like making sure that like these people are safe. And right, okay, I kind of like skipped ahead. That's how I think that we'll come back to like building the depth, but I think like building adult friendships is really about the follow up at the right at its core. I met a couple friends at ping pong. I think I've like told you guys about them, but like afterwards, right? It could have just been like, I met you once and we follow each other on Instagram, and you're just gonna like follow me on Instagram forever, and we're never gonna hang out. But then it's really like when people will follow up with a coffee date or like, oh, this is an event that I think you would like you should come through, right? Like sometimes we don't always have the time to be like, oh, like let's get coffee and like be very intentional about it. Like sometimes that it just logistically can't happen. But I think what's important is like maybe dedicating and like going to things that you like so that it's kind of a mutual benefit, right? Like if I meet somebody and I'm not sure yet, right? Like if they're my person, if they're my type of person, if they have the types of values that I like in my friends, I'll kind of like do a more casual hang where I'm getting something out of it, right? Like I like to go on runs. I will work in a coffee shop, like a work from home date. So it's kind of like mutual. It's hitting two birds with one stone, right? It's like mutually beneficial because like let's say the human interaction doesn't go so well, so hot, then like at least I got a run out of it. At least I got a hike out of it. At least I got coffee. Like I have to do every day, like I make it like kind of convenient for yourself. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think that's why people in LA are like, right, we have that stereotype of like always asking to like go on a hike. And it's because like, dude, everyone's busy and I was gonna go on this hike anyways, or maybe I wanted to check out this hike anyways, and so that's what I'm gonna do it. There's two ping pong guys, like we're literally gonna hang out in a couple weeks. I've grabbed coffee with both of them, went to events with both of them, and like invited them to my +1 party. Like it's just really about the frequency, right? Like people always say that you like people that you're like around a lot. Like familiarity builds friendship, right? Like that's why people date within the workplace, because like you're constantly seeing them and like you start to notice like the small things that like you like about this person. And so same goes with friendships. Like you have to continually work at the friendship, otherwise it's gonna die, right? Like I've had plenty of friendships where like it's lasted like 6 years, and then we'll kind of like go through our years where we don't see each other, right? Like I literally have some college friends where like I'll see them like very frequently for 1 year, and then the next year for whatever reason like we just like don't see each other, but we'll kind of like always come back and kind of rekindle that friendship. And like because that has happened, it's like nice because it's like having this like a little bit of confidence that like you can always like reignite a friendship, like it's never really over. um and so I do really like and value those friendships where it's like not that serious, yes, even though that's literally in direct contrast to what I just said earlier. Y'all know I do this, and so we are, look at how dichotomous of me, so dichotomous of me. And those two things can coexist. And then other ways that I've been meeting people, run clubs have been good. I mean, I don't really run, and so like that's kind of tough. But I think maybe a good way to start is like find an extroverted friend, because an extroverted friend will introduce you to all their friends. Like I think at this point in my life, a lot of my friends have met. And so it makes it just like so that it's easier to just be like, oh, can so and so come to this thing? Oh, can so and so come to this thing? Like, oh, like let's all mob together. And right? Like, I think introverts, it's a little bit less likely that that will happen. At least some of the introverted friends that I have, like, they much prefer just smaller group settings, like one-on-ones, and just like settings where they know how many people exactly are going to be there. And so, yeah, make an extroverted friend and they will introduce you to all of their friends. And from there, you'll meet the friends of friends. And like, that's why the world gets so small, right? That's why we have like the 2 degrees of separation, because everyone's just meeting people all the time. And okay, so that's like physically how you're meeting people, but I think emotionally, now this is the most important part. Sorry, this episode is so backwards, but y'all bearing with me. Emotionally, you have to come with open energy. I am a big, huge energy person. Now, it's not like you have to be energetic or outgoing or anything like that. Like, I have all different types of friends. Like, my friends can tell you, like, when you put everyone in a room together, like, everyone is a little different, like, have just different personalities and interests. And, like, it's not just like one genre of people. And so, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, like, people can feel your energy and whether or not you have good energy, right? Like, I have met countless people where I'm just like, there's something kind of like magnetic to them, right? Where it's like, I'm like either intrigued by you or like you just seem like a good person. Like, there's just something drawing you to them. And so, same when you meet other people, they are feeling your energy. And so I think a lot of like building friendships is also the internal work of like figuring out who you are and what your place is in this world, so that you can like kind of know where you stand and what your role is, and like what types of people you want to interact with, right? Like, friendships are same as dating. Like, I have had many friends where I'm like, oh, right, I talked about this in my emotional rebound episode, where like I've had friends where like thought that they were going to be a friend for life, but they ended up not being. And like, that's just like dating, where like I'm like, "Oh my god, I found my husband," and then he ends up not being my husband and not even a boyfriend. And so I think it's like also just like giving yourself the opportunity to be open to that, and like, yeah, just like preparing yourself, right? Like, everyone says that like you'll meet someone when you're least expecting it, and I think that comes with friendships too. Had I not gone to this random party that like honestly was like a little lame-o, I wouldn't have met Diane. Like, we wouldn't be where we are today and like have this beautiful friendship that we've built. And like, same with Allie and Joyce. Like, I was in the library with them, didn't have people to live with. And like, it was a spontaneous decision. Like, we did not know each other. Like, we knew of each other because of KCM, and like KCM is our campus ministry. But like, I was not friends with these girls. Like, we had not had like a sustainable conversation within like the last like 3 months that I like kind of knew of them. But like, something about their energies just felt right, and it wasn't expected. Like, I was just like open to like what they had to offer. Like, maybe I just like had saw the potential. And I also think like I'm a huge fan of inviting yourself to things, or like inviting other people to things, right? Like, I used to be like really embarrassed when like people would be talking about something that like I wasn't invited to, or like people are going to something that like I really wanted to go to, like a concert or a show, or just like an event that I like have been following but like didn't have people to go with. And like, I'll literally be like, "Oh, can I come?" Or be like, "Oh, I would love to come. When is that?" Or like, "Oh, do you guys mind if I join?" And like, if you keep like an upbeat attitude about it, like, it's not weird. Like, literally, like, did you guys see that where I just went, "Oh, do you mind if I join?" Super genuine, super sincere. I I should start acting cuz Hollywood baby. But like, it is genuine and sincere, where like, if you are the type of person, cuz I am kind of the type of person where I'll like overthink things, especially when you're like inviting yourself to things. Like, I don't want to like feel like I'm like begging for my invite, right? And so I actually want to know like if y'all mind if I join. Like, that's literally genuine. And so by asking that question, it kind of just like opens up the floor for everyone, where you're like, oh, like let's actually discuss whether or not like you guys are okay with this. And like sometimes I'll even throw in like, oh, like think about it, like I like no pressure, or just like, yeah, whatever. And like so it makes it so that like maybe without like that added pressure, like they'll be nice, like rather than be like, oh, I'm not too sure, maybe they'll be like, oh, like I don't think this time, but like I'll totally invite you the next round, you know, like the next time we host this thing. And so I'm a huge fan of that. And then yeah, just like there are so many events going on at all times. I mean, I don't know where y'all live, but like I just went to a bookstore event, like there'll be like AAPI markets all the time. I just went to Asian Mental Health Project's Honor Your Feelings Fest. And it's like, oh, we can just like go hang out there and like once again kill two birds with one stone. And so like I think even like keeping updated on what's going on in your community is really cool, because it almost feels like an excuse to like hit people up, right? Like one of my favorite things is to be like, hey, like, do you want to check out this new food spot with me? Like, oh, I've really been wanting to check out that cafe. And so I think like that's like so fun. And I think like when it comes to, if you don't have any sort of like foundation established, maybe you're going into a city with no friends, you have to get creative. Whether that's going and taking a book to the bar, yeah, do that. Or just getting like, I don't know if I would like go out, but like I've literally made friends in the club because like we related on like literally not liking the chain smokers that much. It was so funny. Or like, yeah, at events, a lot of times like people will be kind of walking around alone, and you just have to figure out which ones are like open to talking a bit more. And so yeah, I think a lot of this comes down to you, like just making sure that you have open energy, and that like you've worked on yourself enough to know exactly what you want in people and what you want in this like next like stage or friendship that you're looking for. And I think another thing that's important is maybe recognize, right? Because I'm looking back at this question, right? Advice for making friends as an adult and building deep platonic connections with other people. Deep platonic connections. I think a lot of times, right, like there's like so much smack talk about how like I don't like doing small talk, like I just like don't care, and like I don't have the time for it, whatever. Something that's really important is that ebb and flow between deep and shallow. Like with my best friends, it's not that we're like getting deep and talking about like the hard struggles of our life all the time. It's also about like those moments of like light and like gratitude and positivity, and like just talking about the latest like social media drama, or like famous people drama, celebrity drama, the goss, and like being able to flip back and forth between those, right? Like I think that's one of the things you guys know about this podcast is like, yeah, we get deep here, but like it's not going to be deep and crying all the time. Like that's just not in my personality. Like I like a little bit of humor, I like a little bit of levity. And so same goes for friendships. You can't expect that like right off the bat. Like you have to be willing to like have those awkward friend dates, right? Like me and Diane too. It was a little awkward at the beginning. Also, like time wise, I think it took us like over a year. Like over a year to like get to a place where our relationship was like established enough where we could be silly, goofy, and just sit on the couch, right? Like I think at the beginning of friendships, like you have this feeling that you like always have to be doing something together, but I think like something so special is like doing the mundane together too, right? Like it's so funny because Allie, she is like queen of like running errands with her friends, and she was saying it's because she's like an acts of service person. And how that's acts of service, I'm not too sure. I feel like I would categorize that as quality time. Oh, acts of service because like you guys are kind of getting done together what she would have had to do alone. But like it's probably a little bit of both, acts of service and quality time of just like it's fun to go on a Target run. It's fun to go grocery shopping. Like let's do those like mundane stuff together. Like I just want to go and like hang. Like I don't want to be out all the time eating. Like I love food. I love checking out new restaurants, but like sometimes it's just like more like pyone and like comfortable to like just be at somebody's home, right? Like do a home cooked meal or something. Um and so yeah, also like not putting too much pressure on like getting deep all the time. Like that will come with time if it's meant to be. And like as much as like right, we want to be efficient and our time is limited, you can't really predict these things. Like I mean, I hope that you would be able to like tell whether or not like you mess with this person, like mess with in like a good way. Whether or not you mess with this person after, you know, however many interactions, but like sometimes you can't always tell. Like I could with all my like really close friends, I don't know if I could completely tell at the beginning. All I knew was like I wanted to hang again, right? And so, yeah, I hope that you guys will go out and like just not feel scared or shy because like no one's here to judge you. If they're judging you, like dude, get a life, right? Like I'm all about making connections and just like making friends and like being open to that because like what fun is life without that? And if people are judging you, like that wasn't meant to be, right? Like if someone doesn't like me back, it's not meant to be, right? I've literally had those people who I can tell they're dodging me and I'm like, oh, I'm not begging for a friendship right now. Like I literally could care less. Like I have plenty of friends. And so, and even if you're not in that same boat, like maybe you don't have as many friends at the moment, like you don't want to taint your circle and poison your circle with that bad energy. And so I would just like, yeah, just like trust your instincts, trust your guts, and yeah, be open. Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I will catch you guys next week, but I didn't plug them in the beginning, but please check out Asian Mental Health Project. They're doing really good work and I'm like so proud to see how far they've come. And so, yeah, please do that and I will catch you guys next week.